Even though David Knight was able to pretty much single-handedly sponsor the show by himself last week, he was able to get his VidVac on Saturday, so that's good to see. David Greenshield, can you guys see Sevyn Banks making a Damon Arnett-like improvement in 2021? Arnett was able to play himself into being a first-round selection and taking off in the NFL as well.
I think that'd be very much appreciated by Kerry Combs if he does that. I think he's got the physical and athletic ability to do that. I think he's standing there, looks like a first-round draft pick at the cornerback position, and we saw him do some amazing things at times, but consistency at times was lacking, I think, for Banks as well as the rest of that secondary. So I look at it that those guys are going to benefit tremendously from what should be a good spring practice. Going against the best wide receiver group in the country will only help them in practice. Going against Olave and Wilson and Smith-Njigba and Fleming and everybody else, G. Scott and everybody else who's part of that group. So Jamison Williams as well. That's 6 pretty good wide receivers there, plus anybody else who's enrolled early or still there. So I'm very optimistic about Sevyn Banks. I think he's got tremendous upside. I just think it was a case where it was somewhat of a baptism by fire, and they went against some very good wide receivers last year. When you talk about some of the teams that they played against, in particular, that were able to do some great things against them, like Indiana now.
Any thoughts on Sevyn Banks, boys? Anything else?
I think that it's important based on who's around him as well. I mean, it's really, everybody looks at an individual. I just can't stop looking at his frozen picture there. I think it's a matter of when you sit there and you see who's with you in the secondary, and that's going to determine how much you're going to be tested and what it is you're going to face and everything else. And I mean, I don't think that's anything that's unique to playing corner. As I'm trying to reset my shot. I don't know. We dropped the 4 shot into a 3, and now I'm out of whack. I think he's certainly talented. He has the physical skills, but I think a lot of it's just going to be predicated on who's around him, because what happens if he ends up being kind of the corner of record out there in terms of stuff, and they just kind of go away from him, and then people are like, well, look, he's doing great. Well, no, they're not throwing at him. So, I think a lot of it determines on the recovery of Cameron Brown and just what they're able to get from the younger guys behind them. And honestly, we all know that we're pushed better when we perform better when we're being pushed. So it would be in his best interest to have some of these young guys there pushing him, because once you get that starting spot, of course, competitors want to compete and keep getting better. But when you're having to look over your shoulder to sit there and see that young guy trying to take that spot from you, I think that will help with the development as well.
It's funny. I keep thinking that it's the other corners behind Sevyn Banks who need to step up. But, yeah, he still needs to step up. I expect it to happen. I mean, he's the starting cornerback at Ohio State, and that means something. I wrote this week that Ohio State has had 28 starting cornerbacks since 1995, and only 6 haven't been drafted. And they've all been drafted within the first 4 rounds. So you play cornerback at Ohio State, you are an NFL player. And he needs to he's 6'1", 200 pounds, fast, long, exactly what you want in your corner. Now, last year was a tough year to be a first-year starter because there was a pandemic going on, and it's tough to develop. And I don't think we should ever – I don't think you can gloss over that. I think you have to acknowledge that development was tough last year. And so that's now that's gone. It's not gone yet, but they are back on campus, and they are trying to keep things as normal as possible. So I would expect him to be fine. Now, is fine, Kendall Sheffield, or is it, Jeff Okudah? Somewhere in there, I think is good. I still think this defense comes down to who's at safety more than who's at corner. I think the corners will be good. Corners will be good enough. It's, who's that last line of defense, and what kind of pass rush are you getting?
Sevyn Banks, 23 tackles last year, had himself a pick back in 2019. Talking Ohio State football each and every Wednesday with these guys. Depending on basketball schedules, you can usually catch us at 2 p.m. Eastern time as it stands right now.